I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Courtside Soundoff podcast. Once again, I'm Josh Jamahal. As always, welcome by the one and only man of the hour, too sweet to be sour, future Jiu-Jitsu world champion, Angel Ortega. We got a lot of stuff to talk about this week, boys. UFC 298 to go over, UFC Mexico going down this weekend, as well as a PFL versus Bellator card going down in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. As always, news to cover as well. Real quickly, we are brought to you by two sponsors of the show, Rogue Energy and ELYXR. Rogue Energy can be fueled up, gets me to the finish line, whether I'm at the gym or working from home. ELYXR, though, they get me really, really chilled out with their Delta 8 products, and you can enjoy them as well with code SOUNDOFF for both of those websites, Rogue Energy and ELYXR, code SOUNDOFF, all caps, for 10% off. I feel like before we actually kick into the recap, I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the fact that there was because last week, if you recall, at the start of the show, we talked about Kansas City, and because we're both from Kansas City, and we were talking about celebrating the Super Bowl win, and it was actually the morning of the parade. And then at that parade, I'm sure you've read by now that I believe the number was 30 people were shot, and one woman passed away. Terrible situation, man. I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't send thoughts and it's terrible. Thoughts and prayers. That's all we literally can do. And just show support of the families. I'll probably leave the description down below because I know there's been a lot of GoFundMe's created for a lot of people involved in the shooting. Angel, any quick thoughts on that? I know that I'm kind of springing this on you, but I know we talked about it a lot.
I know you hit me with it out of nowhere. I mean, it's been all over the news, especially the local news for us. Yeah. It's pretty much talked about. It's some, I see it at work pretty much every day. In some fashion, it's been mentioned in some capacity. Sad, man. Heartbreaking, that, a few people just had to, ruin such a nice moment and make it into a tragedy for some people, And it's crazy, because they had, fucking the FBI was there apparently. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they had 800 uniformed cops, and God knows how many that were in plain clothes, yeah.
Yep, on top of that. And then, snipers on the roof. They were set up. Sadly, they just, this ended up happening. And, it's just sad. I was really down afterwards because, I'm not, not to be kind of, get on a little tangent here on the podcast, but I just had some weird feeling about that day. Mm-hmm. And, I feel fucking terrible that I even thought that way, but fuck, I wasn't wrong. I don't know if that just goes to show the kind of world we live in now.
Yeah.
But hopefully, justice, occurs. Apparently most of the people involved were, juveniles, so, that's a whole other topic, in our Kansas City area, which hopefully, hopefully we can make a difference and prevent this from ever happening again. And hopefully it never happens ever again anywhere in the world. No one should be, afraid to go out. No one should feel unsafe in public, and especially in a moment of happiness. This was meant to be happiness. I think it was even on fucking Valentine's Day, right? Did it even fall on Valentine's Day?
It did. It did fall on Valentine's Day. Yeah.
On top of that, which is just fucking insane. So.
Yeah, as of now, they've arrested 4 people. 2 of them were juveniles, and it's fucking terrible. I feel like we had to bring it up just because I was thinking about even cutting it with a message last week after, but I was like, I'm just gonna leave it in its original form in the pod, and just talk about it this week. So yeah, I'll probably put in the description of the pod some of the like the resources for the GoFundMe and some of the people who suffered at the parade, man. I will say this just to kind of close it out. If there's one thing, and there's no good way to deal with a mass shooting, obviously, but the fact that seeing a lot of the stories come out about how some of the players, talked with a lot of kids, or even Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think, took a kid to cover. Andy Reid was in Union Station meeting up and talking to a lot of the kids, calming them down, and the fact that a couple of our fans tackled one of the fuckers.
Real motherfuckers in KC, bro. Real motherfuckers.
And I saw the interview, and he was like, yeah, I was fucking digging into the body on the ground. I was fucking hitting him, and he's just like, yeah, man, that's this city, man. If there's no good way to deal with it, but I will say I was proud of the way everybody has rallied around it. That's Kansas City, man. That's, bad shit happens, but still here, man. So, yeah, we'll move on, but I feel like I just had to bring that up and, yeah, just terrible. But, late, I will say we're going to move on. But anyways, last Saturday night from the Honda Center in Anaheim, California, I said going into this card, Alexander Volkanovski, Ilia Topuria is arguably the greatest fight the UFC can make on paper. And in the end, we have a new featherweight king, El Matador. Ilia Topuria knocks out the great Alexander Volkanovski in the second round, 332. Just a devastating shot. Just blistering. If you guys go watch you couldn't really tell kind of like in the moment, you kind of fall into it. But dude, if you watch like the cage side replay of it, dude, blistering speed. Volkanovski, he had no chance, dude. I mean, just shots coming through the guard, ends up being put down. Ilia Topuria and new. There's a lot of stuff to really kind of take away from this. I mean, that first round was kind of back and forth. What did you make of this fight, man?
I mean, dude, Ilia just seems so comfortable in there. So comfortable, so confident. Kind of the energy he had outside of the cage was definitely in the cage as well. Had Volk constantly behind that black line that we hear all the times where, like takedowns occur, a lot of offense occurs afterwards, and just had him circling, throwing kicks. I didn't think Volk looked bad. His game plan has been questioned a lot though, as far as like a lot of kicks to the arms, kicks to all of that, kicks to the legs. But he seemed to, kind of seemed like, for the most part, kind of like a typical Volk fight. Like, okay, we're going to kind of get, we're going to kind of get going a little bit. We're going to throw a little bit. We're going to try to analyze, let the fight come, develop, and then we'll kind of, go from there. In the short amount of time, and granted, it was only 2.5 rounds or slightly over 2.5 rounds.
Yeah.
I felt like Volk never was able to find himself he was never fully able to establish himself as the controller of the fight, even though he arguably won that first round. And, but even then he was the one backing up a lot, circling, like I mentioned earlier. And like I mentioned earlier, Ilia just seemed confident, and the power was apparent from the moment that first combination landed in the first round. You could tell Volk was like, oh fuck, okay. And then with the followed up shots, I mean, he ended the fight with a 5-punch combination, that he followed all the way through to the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, this is it's history. History has been made for Spanish champ, Georgian champ too, I guess, if they want to slide both of those in there. Big moment for Spain. A lot of Spanish celebrities coming out and Spanish media and Georgian media celebrating Merab and Ilia. It's definitely a massive moment, man. That's the beauty of the sport, where a guy from a country that's maybe not the biggest, or maybe hasn't had champions in other sports comes in and makes this kind of splash. I mean, this is the beauty of the UFC, man. Obviously, hurts for Volk, but for Ilia, I mean, you had the likes of Sergio Ramos writing a whole statement like it, Iker Casillas. I think I might be wrong, but Nadal or someone else like wrote a statement. I could be wrong here as well, giving him the praises of Spanish. He was in the biggest Spanish media newspaper this morning or yesterday. I can't remember. And just to give an idea of some of the people that we're talking about, like I looked it up. Sergio Ramos has like 60,000 followers on Instagram. You have to get 10 Patrick Mahomes accounts just to make up Sergio Ramos following, just to give you guys an idea of the people that were, following Ilia.
But Angel, with America is the world. You have to know that.
Oh man, dude, right now, right? That's why we have so many American champs right now in the UFC. But no, I mean, and there's a guy I follow on Instagram named Iker Ruiz. He does these small format like pieces on athletes, and he did one on Ilia, and he was like, he showed us that the dreamer can reach his dream. He's reached now, he showed us that a Spaniard could be a champ in the UFC. He did what Paul did, in the NBA. He did what I can't think of the Spanish F1 driver, but him, and then he, Nadal. He mentioned all these Spanish athletes that aren't necessarily in the, like soccer and stuff like that, who have, done great things in their sport as well. I mean, he established himself in history as in some capacity at all times, great in Spain, in this sport. Because there's been, at the moment, and who knows when it will ever happen, if there'll never be another champion at Spain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude, and I've seen a lot of clips come out of, I don't know if it was Spain exactly. I know that he also has ties to Georgia as well. So forgive me, I don't really know where the videos are from, but I've seen like multiple like watch parties of Topuria, like the end of him winning the belt, and like, dude, this motherfucker is the real deal in terms of star power. Like, it's all, you see why the UFC like pushed him from fighting, Josh Emmett to fucking, who, no slouch, but I mean, not top 5, you get my point. Like, to fighting for the title in Volk, and they knew he was the real deal, both in terms of talent, but also in terms of star power. And like you mentioned, guys like Sergio Ramos, like, hyping him up, that's huge.
I mean, wrote a statement, like, out of his own on his Instagram and posted it. Like, dude, like, that's high praise that he took. I mean, he could have had, and who knows, right? He could have had his publicist do that or whatever, but I doubt it. I doubt it. I mean, this guy flew into Florida last year and watched him fight live, Courtside. Dude, on top, what else is it to say? You had my brain going there for a little bit. Mm-hmm. I'll let you take over. I'll come back to
you. Yeah, fair enough. So I was looking it up. He already has 3,000, Jesus Christ, 3.2 million followers on Instagram, and he just became champ. He's just now starting the run. You know what I mean? And that is just insane to me. That like he's already there. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, I know what came back to me.
Yeah, go ahead. I
tell you, man. I was going to talk about this. I'm like, dude, MMA math is just, this one, it doesn't worry. Because let me give everybody an idea. Think about how, and granted, they're all, they were still both great wins in their own way. But think Josh Emmett fought Yair Rodriguez. Yair Rodriguez fought Volk. You saw how Volk beat Yair. You saw how Yair beat Josh Emmett. Ilia fought Josh Emmett. You saw how he beat him with, going to distance, beating him on the feet. And then Ilia fought Volk. It's crazy, man. You can't do this in this sport, man. You can't do this MMA match shit. I mean, there's sometimes where there's definitely, you could definitely use it to a certain extent, but I was thinking about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude. I mean, it's, yeah. I mean, you know what? So I saw people, on Saturday night, Volk called out, not called out necessarily, but he talked about fighting a bunch of guys. And one of the guys was Conor McGregor. And, at first value, face value, you're like, oh, that's kind of crazy, but at the same time, like, dude, in terms of star power, I don't think it's actually that crazy. Like, the UFC knows they have something in Topuria, and I could see them, maybe in a year or two, if Conor ever fights again.
Yeah.
I feel like I should say that if Conor ever fights again, because we'll talk about UFC 300 in a couple minutes, but, I don't think he's ever going to fight again personally, but I mean, hey,
what do you do, Josh? Michael Chandler called him out on WWE.
That was in the rundown, but I guess we'll bring up that up right now. Yeah, Michael Chandler called out Conor McGregor at WWE Raw, and dude, we're seeing the first signs of the TKO group, like existing, like WWE and UFC crossover. Because so not only was Chandler there, but the night before, or not night before, 2 nights before at UFC, they had UFC veteran CM Punk in attendance for the WWE. They had who else? They had Bianca Belair and her husband Montez Ford from the WWE. So we're seeing the first signs. And not only did they have Chandler, they had I think Tabitha Ricci and Callum Walsh were there. Oban Elliott was there. Like they had a really weird one, but they had a bunch of UFC fighters. So it's kind of like, okay, we're getting going then. We're getting going, man. It makes you wonder. Yeah.
We do need to address some things, though. I kind of really back. We got to address some of the statements that have been made from Volk and Ilia and Dana too.
Yeah,
post fight. Ilia makes it seem like he doesn't want to fight any of these top guys. I mean, I know, but I'm not saying but it's kind of how it sounds like. That's how it's coming off.
Yeah.
I will say this: I think he's gonna be champ quite a while, Josh, because this division right now, I don't see anybody who stands out to me. Max is getting older, fighting at 155 right now, has the opportunity to fight for the belt now that Volk's out of the picture. Volk, obviously, 35, going on 36 here soon at some point in time. Yair and Brian are good guys, man, but I don't know, like, I'm not seeing that next guy in line. Like, Mozar, undefeated, yet to get a finish, has had, some odd moments in his last 2 fights, but hasn't been super, I don't know, I feel like he hasn't been as active as he could have been as well. Who else? I mean, Arnold Allen, back-to-back. I don't know if he has back-to-back losses, but I know it's not so far removed. But Max Holloway, now Mozar. The only guy who seems kind of interested in me in 145, and he's quite a bit away, is Lerone Murphy.
Mm.
You know, and that's quite a while from now. You know, Lerone
Yeah.
just recently got into the rankings, and even then, I'm not necessarily thinking Lerone's going to beat Ilia at this time. So I feel like we're going to be in Ilia just turned 27, I believe. We're going to have the Spanish era for quite a while, man. I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Speaking of, you mentioned Ilia probably won't. He doesn't seem like he wants to fight these top contenders. What do you think is next for him? I mean, I know that some people were saying, you know, Volk shouldn't get the rematch because he's lost 2 in a row. But like, if we're talking 145, I mean, they have to do the rematch just based on his history, right?
They might, but it feels weird, Josh. I feel like this is one of the times where I'm not like the most down for it, which is weird.
Yeah.
Especially because Brian and Yair are about to fight literally this week, and we'll get to that here once we get through this card. But if Yair Rodriguez is winning that fight, these guys have major beef. You know, it's Spain and Mexico. You know, they both speak Spanish. You know, selling that across both those countries would be super easy. The lead up is going to be insane. And I mean, you saw him on Ariel's show. He does not like Ilia at all. It seems like Ilia does have some animosity going back the other way. So there's definitely a fight there that could be built there, and that could make some big money, I think, too. Potentially even bigger than the Volk and Ilia fight at this time. I know that might upset some people, but I think genuinely because of the amount of promo those guys could do, and especially because Ilia who could speak 3 or 4 languages, Yair who could speak English and Spanish, you know, you definitely have something there. And if they do it in Spain on top of that, what a crowd, man.
Mm. Yeah, you're not wrong. I will say though, man, I do think he does deserve the rematch. I agree with you that it feels like a time where it won't happen. Mainly because of the fact that it was pretty lopsided. Like, I understand the first round was close. You know, I think you could have given it to Volk, you know, but even then it felt, I don't know, man, once you saw the speed difference in them, it almost felt like a formality. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, I agree with you. I think he'll more than likely end up fighting the winner of Rodriguez and Ortega, which
in between. I think in between. He could fight 3 times this year. That's not something that it's out of the question. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He could, depending how Yair and Brian goes or whoever wins there, you know, we're not trying to assume. That fight could happen sooner than what we think. On top of that, he could fight later in the year as well. I mean, Ilia doesn't seem to he got touched up, but I don't think he took any serious damage where in 4 months, you know, depending if 3 or 4 months, if he asks these guys to turn it around, they won't be ready. And then by the time of November or December, Volk and Ilia can go, and they could set up a venue in Spain at that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and dude, if they have him fight in Spain, like, holy shit. You know what I mean?
In the stadium, too. Dana didn't shut that down. I feel like Dana shut down stadiums a lot, but this is one time where he didn't shut it down.
He shuts down stadiums a lot, but then he also sometimes where he's like, yeah, we're going to have a stadium, and then he doesn't do the stadium, you know? So
no, you're not wrong, but this time he didn't shut it down fully, which I thought was interesting. I feel like most of the other times he's been like, no. And on top of that, Real Madrid Stadium, which is the one that Ilia brought up, they personally, I think, tweeted or said something that they would be more than glad to host that.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure they would, but it all depends on how much they're willing to pay. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's basically what it comes down to. Like the UFC just announced that they're gonna keep on going to the Honda Center in Anaheim.
It's crazy.
Yeah, they're gonna go there 3 times a year. Because I don't know the terms of the deal, but presumably they're paying a lot of money. Like, I know that for UFC Atlantic City, they paid up like millions upon millions to get that show. So, yeah, I mean, if they're willing to cough up some money, I'm sure that Dana will have no problem taking them there. Which, I really hope, man. I really hope so. I want to see them do some funny, creative shit. I feel like it's been a minute, you know, since they've really done something really cool like that.
This could be the time, man. This could be the guy who does all of that. And like I told you, he screams confidence right now. He is, like, his confidence is crazy, man. Like, we've had confidence, but like the level of confidence is like, I hate to say it, almost Conor-esque. You know, we've had a lot of comparisons to Conor throughout this lead up to this fight, and even like fight wise and like.
Oh, he grabbed the fucking belt, dude. He was doing a whole impersonation of the guy. You know, like.
Another thing, Josh, his reaction after the finish was he seemed surprised. Like, he was in shock. Like, he could not believe that I don't know if he thought it was like, damn, that's it. Like, I finally did it. Or was like, damn, it was that easy. Or I'm not saying it was, or if he, but I wonder what his emotions were, what his feelings were like. Cause that reaction, I kind of like, in the moment I noticed it instantly and it confused me. You know? Cause it wasn't like instant excitement or euphoria. It was just like, I don't know if it was a sense of relief. I don't know what you want to call it, but it definitely did throw me off a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and honestly, I think a lot of that just has to do with the fact that, like, he kind of looked like he had that vibe about him all week, where, like, he was confident, but also, like, the moment, he was kind of aware of how big the moment was. You know what I mean? So I think that's probably something that played a role. But yeah, I mean, I think we should go ahead and probably move on. But dude, I mean, for Volkanovski to kind of close out on him, yeah, devastating. There's no other way to put it. And, you know, in hindsight, he probably should have not fought as soon as he did. I mean, to get knocked out brutally by Islam and then to turn around, you know, 4 months later, that is a quick turnaround. Didn't end up working out for him. So, you know, we'll see what he does, man. But I mean, you can't write him off. But it's just a damn shame that he ended up making that decision and ended up backfiring as bad as it did. And he still might have lost to him anyway. But that's kind of the problem, right? Like, if you're fighting a monster like Topuria, you should be taking that. You should have a full training camp, and you should maybe not have Mark Zuckerberg in the fucking corner too. You know, like,
I forgot the Zuck was there, man. That was funny, dude.
It was funny, but it's funny to a point, right? Like, to have.
Well, I saw some memes like, we gotta stop doing this shit, and it was like all the times they've had people in the corner who weren't, you know, like coaches. Like, it was who'd they put up there? Threw him up there. They threw
Goggins.
There's another one.
Josh Fabia, maybe?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Mike Perry's girlfriend, which it worked the first time, but the second time it did not work.
No, it did not work out the second time. Joshua Fabia, Jesus Christ. You know, it's funny, I thought about it the other day. Like,
yeah, really?
Yeah, I don't know why. I think they were talking about him on a podcast, and I had to look him up again because I was trying to find out, like, what was going on with him, and he's pretty much not disappeared off the internet, but isn't active on any media since.
That's a good call. That's a smart decision.
Since him and Diego are no longer working together, but holy fuck, dude, what a time in the game, too.
One of the oddest times in the game.
I think, no joke, I think Diego would have been better off with Steven Seagal in his corner than Joshua Fabian. That's not even an exaggeration. I think Diego might have actually could have won a fight with Seagal in his corner.
Well, I mean, Seagal taught Anderson Silva that kick that one time, so.
You're right. How can I be so ignorant?
Yeah, so, I mean, it would have worked out well. But, jokes aside, man, I think we should go ahead and move on because, that co-main event was an absolute banger, man. Robert the Reaper Whittaker ends up picking up a unanimous decision win, 29-28, 29-28, 30-27. You know, scores don't really indicate it. It was a nice performance by Paulo Costa, but man, just Whittaker looked like himself in there, man. If there were any doubts on if his chin was gone or whatever it may be, no more doubts, man. Ended up looking great. What'd you make of his performance?
This is what I expected, man. This is what I expected. I gotta give credit to Paulo, though. Does that sound weird? Even though Paulo lost, one of the better Paulo Costa performances.
Yeah.
Oddly. I mean, he was a little bit more calm in his approach, kind of you know, it wasn't just him. I mean, he did come forward and try to brawl a little bit, but it wasn't to the extent that it had been in the past. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I got to give him some credit there. Maybe an evolution in Paulo Costa's game there. And on top of that, he tagged Whittaker with that head kick. Was that round 1 or round 2? I can't even remember.
In the closing seconds of round 1, who knows if.
Dude, you know. It's absolute insanity. Absolute insanity at the end of round 1. I remember I was like, oh fuck. Oh no, you know, like I got up from my seat a little bit. I was like, oh no, it's not gonna happen, right? It didn't. But yeah. Man, credit to Robert Whittaker. Like, look, the state of 185 right now is like really fucked because like Sean just lost the title again. Izzy lost the title and he's not that far removed from championship. Robert Whittaker really hasn't fought the ex-champ not that long ago. Had a recent loss to Izzy. 185 is a shit show right now, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I really hope like some of these new blood and new gen fighters at 85 can start breaking through to kind of make some things up and kind of maybe like push some of these older fighters out. No hate to the older fighters, but you know, just to establish themselves or let some of these older fighters hold their place down, but also take out this young talent in the process and show why they're there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the thing is, man, it's just like you mentioned, middleweight's in such a weird place. And, I guess I really don't know what, I mean, it's not in a bad place. It's just kind of a weird one. Because if you look throughout the landscape, dude, like, And this is kind of why we were hoping for Dricus potentially fight at UFC 300 to kind of clear things up, like definitely a bit quicker. But like, okay, so like you could just look at it, think about it. Sean just lost the title, controversial split decision. You know, Robert coming off a loss now coming off a win over Paulo Costa. Prior to that, he lost to the current champion. Izzy coming off a loss to Strickland. And then in the middle there, you got Khamzat Chimaev, who won a title eliminator against Kamaru Usman last October. But he can't fight in the U.S. because he's banned from the U.S. due to his ties to Kadyrov. That was confirmed last week, I believe. So he can't fight in the U.S. You have this weird kind of log jam where it's like, Khamzat, he's supposed to get the title shot, but he can't give him the title shot because he can't fight in America. So it's like, what are they going to do? You know, Izzy, he's kind of on a hiatus, but he's not on a hiatus. You know, like, Sean just lost the title, super controversial, but can you give him the rematch because he just lost the belt and he was, you know, first time having it and didn't get a single title defense? Like, there's so much going on in middleweight right now. It's such an odd place, but
I'm sure there's like a proper solution to all this or a proper direction to go. But at the same time, it's like right now, it's like who's Dricus gonna fight? Yeah. I don't think there's a clear answer.
There's not. Yeah.
I feel like in a way, like 185 kind of has to figure itself out, and then they could go about it. Unless someone comes up from 170 or 185 or a 205er comes down who's highly ranked. Yeah. I really don't know. I don't think there's a correct answer at this time at 185. And to be honest, I don't think I'd really be satisfied with any of the options right now at 185 because none of them seem like they deserve it, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I fully agree with you. Yeah, I mean, it's in a weird place. I don't know.
I feel like if Brendan Allen would have got another big one here at the start of the year, maybe he could sneak himself in there. Yeah. But at the same time, I don't think anybody's necessarily fighting for a Brendan Allen, you know, title shot when you got guys like Dricus who just recently popped off, Sean who's obviously, you know, blowing up in the media, and, you know, Izzy who's establishing Robert Whittaker who's like a fan favorite. So, I mean, that's the issue with that kind of fight if they do decide to go in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, it would be interesting if they end up, Brendan Allen, that's an interesting one. I'm glad you brought him up because I saw him and DDP were recently going back and forth, so, planting the seeds.
That's what it's all about, champ. You know,
planting the fucking seed, you know, like, Joey
Let's go, champ.
Yeah, so that would be fun. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with DDP. I mean, there's so many things. I was really waiting to see, man, are they really going to give Whittaker DDP too? Main event UFC 300, you know? Like, I'm glad they didn't, but, you know, it would have been funny. Nonetheless, man, next up on the UFC 298 main card, Ian Machado. You know, we were just talking about how Ilia Topuria, he's going to bring a stadium show to Spain. Don't worry, man. Ian Machado Gary, he's right behind him, bro.
He's going to fill a stadium up in Ireland. Well, Brazil these days because he's training down there.
Well, you know, he said that he's actually too big. He might be too big to to fight in Ireland now. Anyways, Machado Gary picks up a split decision win, 30-27, 28-29, 30-27 over Jeff Neal. How would you score it? It was a really weird fight. Yeah, I mean, that's the way I put it. It was a strange fight.
I'm trying to remember exactly how it went. I mean, it was a slower fight. I thought Ian did a great job picking his shots. I thought he was good on the counters. It was just it was a tough fight for Jeff Neal and for Ian. I thought Ian ended up getting the nod. I'm trying to remember. I thought the rounds were relatively clear. Like, obviously it wasn't the best fight. Was it Ian round 1 and 3? Maybe, is that what it was? I'm trying to remember how they went.
I don't even remember, dude. I mean, it was such a.
I don't think it was a 30-27. Just to make that clear.
No, I didn't either.
But I thought Ian Gary ended up getting the nod. I thought he fought the way he was going to fight, kind of for the most part. He fought a smart fight. That's just what you got to do. I mean, you can't go in on Jeff Neal and be taking big risk, you know. So yeah, I mean, it's a good win, man. I mean, honestly, I tip it. It was a tough opponent, and looking at the rankings right now, Ian's ranked 6, man. The only people ahead of him are Colby Covington, Gilbert Burns, Shockbot, Bilal, and Kamaru. And, you know, he's been calling for that Colby fight. And honestly, that's not unrealistic. And honestly, I feel like those guys could actually sell that fight, make it some good promo. And to be honest, we need Colby to fight. We need to be active. You know, he can't hold that rank spot forever without fighting. So I think that'd be a good fight. Especially because he's the only one available. Because I think Gilbert Burns is going to be taking on Jack Dillon Madalena here soon. Shockbot, I think he's kind of going to wait it out for a title shot. I believe, unless Kamaru Usman makes a return, I could see him maybe potentially fighting Kamaru. I really don't know what Kamaru's going to do, but we believe for the most part that at this point in time, welterweight, as far as the welterweight championship picture, to be Leon versus Bilal.
Well, it has to be Leon versus Bilal, but I will say that
I know.
they did not offer Bilal the chance to fight him at UFC 300. They offered Leon, Hamzat Islam Makhachev, and Shavkat Rakhmonov, and he said yes to every single one, but all three of those guys said no for various reasons.
Which is crazy. I'm assuming because they couldn't do it. Well, I think it was Ramadan.
Ramadan for so Rakhmonov, probably Ramadan. I don't know his religion, honestly. But
the other two definitely.
The other two, so Ramadan ends the week before UFC 300. So for Islam, it's probably the case. For Hamzat, it's that and not being allowed into the U.S., I would assume. And then Shavkat, he's coming off an injury anyway. So even if he's, so it was never going to happen. But yeah, I mean, the fact that they didn't even offer Bilal that fight, it's like, holy shit, man. Like, has there been a more disrespected fighter in terms of the way I don't remember for sure, but I want to say that John Fitch.
It might have not been to this extent, but he definitely got delayed for a very long time.
You are correct in that, but I want to say that John Fitch, I want to say he won, maybe 6 fights in a row. I know that he had a smaller win streak than Bilal does right now. You know what I mean?
I know, but I think overall, leading into that fight, it was big.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. But, I mean, Bilal, dude, fucking Christ. What does he have to do? What does he have? What does he have to do?
John Fitch had won 15 fights in a row up until that point, and then won, would you say, 6 of those in the UFC in a row?
Yeah. So 6 so the UFC is the only part that matters, though. So,
Yeah, if we want to,
Well, Bilal he's currently on a 10-fight unbeaten streak in the UFC.
Yeah, and that's the thing. But that's what I'm saying. If you want to give us, to compare it through all of them throughout history, that one's up there. Is there? I don't know if there's anybody else. I don't know. Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely. He's up there as one of the most disrespected guys in UFC history. I think because now they have figured out this UFC 300 situation, I actually think they'll end up giving Bilal the title shot. But the pathway to get there is just fucking brutal. They
better release a documentary on this shit. I know they talked about it as far as making the event for UFC 300. I want to see how fucking crazy this was. I think I don't know if you saw it, but they. We'll come back to that later. I'm not going to get into it now. I'm not thinking about it.
Yeah, but anyways, man, it's yeah. I don't have too many other thoughts on it, but yeah, poor Bilal Muhammad, man. Jesus Christ. The fact that they were willing to give a title shot to Shavkat, which, I get it, right? Coming off a big win over Wonder Boy.
All finishes, 17-0.
All finishes. Trust me, I understand, but the win to get the title shot would have been a win over Wonder Boy, who Bilal beat back in December of 2021.
He did that. He
didn't finish him, but he beat the piss out of him. And after that, he beat a rising Luque who was red hot, who won 5 in a row. Knocked out an undefeated Sean Brady. Not knocked him out, but technical stoppage, you know what I mean? And then he went out and dominated Gilbert Burns. It's holy shit, what are we doing here, man?
Injured Gilbert Burns, let's be
fair, you're right. You're
the
right.
history books won't remember that anyways, but just saying.
Yeah, and that fight was a title eliminator, so it's he's supposed to get the title shot anyway. What are we doing, dude? It's just...
Yeah, no,
it is insane. But anyways, I think we should go ahead and move on. Because we got some other stuff to talk about UFC 298 on the main card. Merab Dvalishvili, he is next up for Sean O'Malley. Ends up dominating Henry Cejudo, winning by unanimous decision. Maybe not domination. I will say the early parts of the fight were close, but overall, a great night from Merab. And in that third round, just beating the shit out of him, dude. He hit him with a hardcore Holly, Alabama slam in the third round, bro. He just beat the piss out of him as the fight went on. What did you make of his performance? He has to be next in line. Dana White said he's next in line, but as we know, we just talked about Bilal Muhammad. Nobody's confirmed ever next in line,
Look, what do you expect out of a guy who gave up 3 years of his prime, coming back and coming right into the peak of this division, even for Henry, who's a great fighter, definitely one of the best ever do, one of the best competitors, I'd say, at least. It's a little saddening because I really do wonder what would have happened if he kept fighting after he beat Don Cruz. I think he stepped away. He thought he had some leverage being double champ. and he ended up fighting a guy in Marab for 15 minutes to get paid $150,000 and then get all that shit taxed.
Yep.
And then retired.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we knew how this fight was going to go.
Yep.
I thought Henry had a chance. I thought Henry looked good in round 1, but after that, it was Marab all day. Credit to Henry, though. He came back and he went the distance against both these guys, against Aljo and against Marab. It shows why he is at least one of the best competitors that we've ever seen in this fight game, dude. So, sad. He could have got C4. As crazy as it sounds, like if he would have stuck around and looked dominant at 135, maybe even defended at 125, because we've never had. Josh, have we ever had any in the males division? Anybody who's been double champ defend their belts in both divisions?
Yes, but it's a little bit confusing. The only guy I believe to do it is DC. DC won the titles he won the title light heavyweight, defended it multiple times, moved up to heavyweight, and then won the title obviously and defended it at heavyweight as the light heavyweight champion.
Did he win?
He never went back down.
Did he win as a heavyweight when he defended it?
Yeah, correct. He defended titles in both divisions. But he did not go back down to he didn't defend light heavyweight, win heavyweight, go back down to light heavyweight. You know what I mean?
Granted, that'd be very hard to do. But still, Henry could have maybe done that and really could have put himself in the position to become, or at least challenge for three-weight champ like he said he wanted to do. He wanted to be C4, which would have been awesome, dude. Can you imagine the build-up to that, the story, pound for pound? Granted, Volk wasn't pound for pound yet, but, these top pound for pound guys, this small guy who has fought as low as 125, went up to 145, fighting this rugby player who's now a professional fighter with this massive record and has all these skills. There was definitely a story there, and it's just kind of he really thought that stepping away could have maybe got him more money, and it just didn't end up being like that.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, though, Josh, 10 years down the line, we might find out that Henry was dealing with stuff or had injuries or something we never knew about. So, that's always a thing, too. We always find out a lot of stuff after the fact. It's easy for us to make an opinion in the moment and easy for us to say stuff when, we're not Henry and we don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And look, dude, Henry Cejudo, I don't want to say he's an all-time what if because we know how good he was. He was that damn good. He's in the conversation. Whenever he retired back in 2020, and we all knew that he wasn't going to stay gone, but, he was technically retiring. Genuinely, you could put him in the top 10 of one of the greatest, fighters of all time at that time. You know what I mean? Because he was just so good. And it's hard to emphasize people who weren't watching because, so many new fans have come in and so many fans have left in the 4 year, during that span that he was retired and then, came back. But Prime Center Henry Cejudo was so fucking good. The guy beat DJ. He beat DJ. Even if you think the fight was controversial, even if you thought DJ won, that guy did, it was a close-ass fight. Goes up, knocks out TJ Dillashaw, knocks out Marlon Moraes, who was red hot at that time, knocks out Dom Cruz. He looked so fucking good to where the point where talking about C4 and him going up to featherweight and me fighting Volkanovski, that wasn't that crazy. We were like, oh shit, let's see it,
Let's do it, fuck it.
Yeah, because he was showing that power. He was rapidly improving. And then he threw it all away. So, yeah.
Could have had it all. Rolling in the deep.
Anyways. Yeah.
Q Adele, baby.
Yeah, this guy.
I'm going to make a meme of that later, just so you know.
I love it. But, yeah, man, he threw it away. He threw it away for nothing. And I understand what he was trying to do, and everybody knew at the time what he was trying to do, that he was just trying to get more money, but man, to play that game with an organization that doesn't give a fuck. They were gonna close his division, dude. They saw that and they're like, oh shit, dude, let's go, man. It's just Henry's gone, hell yeah, brother. And then also Dana White probably got pissed off because he brought him back to fight Aljo and then he lost, so the only guy who he hates more, so anyways, man, yeah, just crazy. But that's my thoughts on it. Cejudo is probably going to go into retirement. He did not announce it, but Dana, whenever he was asked, on why didn't you give Cejudo the mic to retire, he's like, he already fucking retired, he got his chance. Yeah. So it's like, oh, okay. All right.
It's true. He wanted to give Marab his moment, Made sense.
Yeah. It did make sense. So, good for Murad. We'll see what happens with Cejudo. I could see him coming back for big fights. I mean, I don't take his word for basically anything at this point. But anyways, man, opening up the main card. This one obviously wasn't as high profile, a lot of the other fights, but still a very entertaining one nonetheless. In the end, it's Fluffy Hernandez submitting Roman Kopylov in the second round to get the win. For him, for Fluffy, man, that is win number 5 in a row. 4 of those coming by way of finish. What did you make of his win on Saturday?
No, I mean, good. I was high on Roman Kopylov. I still am. I mean, I think, to be honest, I think Kopylov looked good the whole way up until the finish, to be honest. I don't think he looked bad at all. I mean, obviously he ended up being submitted in the end, but, outside of, once he hit the ground and the submission came in, I mean, so be it. But I thought on the feet he looked great as he always does. Definitely could tell Fluffy had some trouble there. But the thing about Fluffy is that man has a fucking, gas tank on him, man, and his grappling game is good, as we've seen. I still do wonder, man, and it might just be the party. I mean, how is he going to be against these, upper echelon 185ers? I do think once the competition starts getting harder, I just don't know how long this Fluffy Hernandez era is going to go. And it's no hate to him. It's just haven't been sold on it just yet, man. I'm trying to be weary, because I thought Kopylov was going to be that guy to get him out of there. But it didn't end up going that way. So good for Fluffy, man. That was a good win, and I think he. On top of that, to give him his praise, I think he is very deserving of a ranked opponent. Get this man a ranked opponent. Because he was supposed to fight, was it Ikram?
Ikram Aliskerov, yep.
Which was going to be an insanely hard fight. And Ikram would have gotten into the rankings if he would have won that. So you can kind of see the direction they were trying to go there. But nevertheless, though, I do want to see Fluffy get that push in this 185 division.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I mean, he deserves it. And I will also say, you mentioned how Roman Kopylov looked really good until the finish. To be fair, though, that's kind of everybody against Fluffy Hernandez at the start, man. It seems like everybody has a little bit of success against Fluffy, man. But that's the thing. Like you mentioned, his gassing and his grappling are just so fucking good. He closed the distance fast, man. And the next thing you know, you're getting fucking strangled in the second round. Yeah, man, just a banger. In terms of the rest of the card, prelims had a couple of big fights, man. Which ones do you want to go over?
I mean, do you want to talk about Amanda Lemos versus Mackenzie Dern, Josh?
Yeah, we can.
Mackenzie Dern celebrating her loss.
Yeah, I don't know how she heard her name, but happened. Third loss in the last 4 for her, man. What'd you make of it?
Tough, man, tough. I mean, I'll give it to Mackenzie. She is one tough chick. But when she got dropped like that and covered her face like she was a child, I was definitely like, that does not look good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, she got dropped brutally. And what I will say is Mackenzie Dern is one of the toughest women in MMA, dog. Like, she is so fucking tough. And I know some people, they gave her the win.
Yeah. Let's not.
I didn't.
Let's not lie to ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that crazy. I mean, round 1 and round 3 were pretty close. I mean, I wouldn't have an issue with it.
But there are some moments where you kind of I can't do it though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is one of those.
Yeah, that's fair. So I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, man, I would not have been surprised how they would have given her the win. But I mean, it sucks for Dern, man. Stepped in on short notice and got really damn close, but still came up short. In regards to the rest of the prelims, man, I mean, Marcos Rogério de Lima defeating Junior Taffa, who stepped in for his brother, Justin Taffa.
DTF Fighter of the Week. DTF Fighter of the Week.
Yep, Junior Taffa is our DTF Fighter of the Week, man. Stepping in on 1 day's notice to fight for his brother. And look, he got his ass kicked, but I mean, he stood in there, he traded some bombs, he had some moments, man. I mean, he's a dog. And it's so funny too, because I mean, you see fighters like this all the time. They're like, somebody will drop out on like a day's notice and they're like, yeah, man, let me in there, knowing damn well they can't fight, and they're not going to, like, I'm 3,000 miles away, fucking. But yeah, dude, I'll hop on a plane right now. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm in Rio right now, down in Brazil. I can definitely make it and cut weight.
You see that every single time somebody misses weight or somebody falls out of a fight on a day's notice. Junior Taffa is actually about that fucking life, dude. Like, he's actually about it. So, he's our DTF Fighter of the Week, 100%. But anyways, man, Brendan Nakamura defeating Cosby. Came off Ultimate Fighter. Sucked to see. I gotta give credit where it's due. Zhang Minyang knocked out Brenton Ribeiro. Called out Alex Bahia for
what a dog.
Yeah, for a UFC title shot, man.
To be honest, though, he had a crazy finish, though, so credit to him.
Yeah, good for him, man. I loved it. Hey, you know what? Shoot your shot, man. Fuck it. Alex Bahia wasn't doing anything at the moment, you know?
Right.
So, that was cool, man.
I mean, they're using all these MMA fighter, creates, to on these fight nights. I mean, it's not unlikely,
Yeah. Yeah, man.
By the way, Josh, this weekend, real quick, I know this is random right now and it's completely off topic, but, Ilia Topuria isn't the only person who got crowned this weekend. I became champion in my undisputed career. I won the national title, in a very, hard-fought fight at heavyweight. I got dropped in the third round, had to come back. I made it to the 8 count, got back on my feet, and I outboxed the fuck out of this guy. They had a rematch clause, came back, beat the shit out of him this time, didn't get dropped, won every single round. Just wanted to put that out there.
Damn.
It got my first finish this morning, too.
What a guy.
Yep, got my first knockout, beat the shit out of this guy. and my first title defense.
What a guy, dude. What a guy.
It's a good feeling.
Just to kind of close out, man, I mean, any closing thoughts on this card, man? UFC 298. It was a good one.
I think it was all right. It was good. It was fun. It had some energy to it. I was excited for it. It still hasn't hit me right in the spot yet. I think 298 and 300 are gonna, or 299 and 300 are gonna be those for me. But this is certainly, obviously we've only had 2 pay-per-views so far. This is definitely number 1, so far. And I mean, it's gonna change, obviously, but it was fun. It was very fun. I had a good time.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited to have you over for the next one. I know you had some personal plans come up.
Yeah.
But and by the way, we already have the next pay-per-view bought. So.
Oh well, let's just go ahead and call a spade a spade. UFC 299 is going to hit like crack. I mean,
right?
I mean, fuck, dude. I mean, I feel comfortable saying now that officially UFC 300 is official. Way more excited for 299. Not even going to lie. I mean, they're
both great. I mean, honestly, I think they're going to go hand in hand. I think it's just going to be dependent on how the fights and the fight results end up going.
I get you. I hear you. I completely disagree. I mean, I don't even think it's going to be close. Just stylistically. Because it's not even just like the names involved. Stylistically. I mean, fucking O'Malley Vera, Poirier St. Denis, Kevin Holland versus the debuting Michael Page, Gilbert Burns, Jack Della Maddalena, Piotr Jan, Song Yadong, Curtis Blades, Jelton Almeida, Macy Barber's on it. They got Gamrot, Rafael Dos Anjos, Michel Pereira, Michael Oliolshuk. We got the debut of the fucking 6'8" monster, Robulis Devil Spignet. Like fucking Jesus Christ. So,
I mean, it's good, Josh, but I mean,
I know we gotta let it play out.
300 just.
I know, man. I know. I hear you, dog.
By the way, they should have put MVP on 300. I think that was kind of an L on their part.
I think that was one of their biggest misses, to be quite honest with you. I mean, like, what even does it like? Do you need MVP on 299? No, man. Like, you really don't. So
could have put him on 300 with Kevin Holland.
Yeah, and it would have made so much. I mean, fuck. Dana said they have one more fight to announce for 300. I don't even know what it's going to be, but
I don't feel like it's going to be anything big, but I could be absolutely wrong. I mean, the only thing they could do, Josh, that I think would be great, and it's something I saw on Twitter, and it's something that we've been campaigning for, but I think it would make, if you're going to make, I feel like it would also make sense in a Apex event, is Kai Kara France versus Manel Cape.
Yeah, I like that one. I like that fight a lot. I know that whenever they tried to book it last time, Kai Kara ended up rejecting it apparently. So we'll see. And Manel Cape missed weight for his last fight, so who even knows if he's even, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So a flyweight anymore. So we'll see. But anyways, man, I think we should go ahead and move on because we do have a lot of stuff to preview actually for this weekend. First, starting off with UFC Mexico City. Going down in Mexico this Saturday night in the main event. This is a flyweight title eliminator. The winner will more than likely be facing Alexander Pantoja in Brazil at UFC 301. And both of these guys.
You think if Royval won, they give Royval the rematch?
They've already said it's a title eliminator. Yeah.
What the fuck? Okay.
Yeah. I don't agree with it, but I mean, I don't think either one of these guys should be in the conference because they're both, but we'll break into it. So Brandon Moreno, we know the story here, former 2-time UFC flyweight champion, has only fought in UFC title fights since November of 2020, when funnily enough, he fought Brandon Royval last time, in the UFC Apex, UFC 255 during COVID. That was a banger of a fight that got stopped in the first round. Because Brandon Royval had I believe an injury.
Shoulder injury. Yep.
Shoulder injury, excuse me. But since then, dude, we know the story. Brandon Moreno fought Figueiredo multiple times, fought Kai Kara France, and then lost the title to Alexander Pantoja, his third loss to Alexander Pantoja, last July. With a win, he can get a fourth crack at him, which it'd be crazy for him to be a part of not one but two UFC quadrilogies. But going to be taking on Brandon Royval once again, another guy coming off a loss to Alexander Pantoja. Not only that, has two losses to Alexander Pantoja. Last time out, he did show improvement in his second fight with him last December. Still suffered a decision loss, ended up losing on the cards. What do you make of this fight, man? I mean, on paper, it's an excellent one. Like I said, I very much disagree with the fact that the winner of this is going to end up fighting Alexander Pantoja. But I get that I'm not really in control of that sort of thing.
I mean, you got to blame Amir Albazi for falling out. I don't know what happened with Albazi. Albazi was going to be in this fight with Moreno.
You're not wrong. And it also doesn't help that, they've had multiple other fights, like Manel Kape falling out of his fight, you know what I mean, with I believe Nicolau. They've had a lot of other shit happen too, so I get it. But what do you make of this fight, man?
I mean, it's gonna be a banger. There's no doubt about it. I think probably, Josh, I could see more than half these fights on this card going to being a finish. I mean, that's kind of the fighters you have on here, the kind of talent you have on here, and also they got that Mexican fighting spirit, baby. You know, Javi.
Mm-hmm.
That is totally a bit from an ad that I can't think of right now. But, look, this fight is not going to disappoint. I will be shocked if this fight ends up being bad in any capacity. Royval is wild, fun. He's tall for the division. He is, good. He's capable of striking on the feet, good on the ground. Same with Moreno, obviously former champ, 2-time champ. He's already beaten him before. Obviously there is, a caveat to that. Did have the injury. But look, for me, I think Moreno gets it done again, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I'm on the same page with you. I think we're going to be looking at Brandon Moreno versus Alexander Pantoja 4 after this weekend. I think Brandon Royval, I think he's going to have moments in this fight. I think he's going to bring the fight to him. But look, man, he's coming in here on short notice. He just fought in December. He's got his back going up against the wall in this one, man. I think I'm going to go ahead and call for Brandon Moreno to get the win. Just stylistically, even in that first fight, I went back and rewatched that first fight yesterday to try and prep for this week's show, and it is true that the fight was stopped due to an injury, and Brandon Royval had his moments, but you could just kind of tell that Brandon Moreno was kind of a step ahead of him even prior to the injury. So I'm going to go ahead and take the assassin baby to get the win. I gotta ask, by the way, somewhat off topic. Did you see that they made do you remember let me just rephrase it, fucked up. Do you remember the This Is Sports Center commercials way back in the day? They would have
I don't know. Maybe if I saw it, but I don't believe so.
Okay, so they were ESPN commercials where they'd be This Is Sports Center, and it'd be a football player tackling somebody in the office, you know what I mean? Shit like that.
Oh, they gave back in the day, maybe, yeah.
Well, they haven't done those in forever, but they did one for Brandon Moreno. They had him in the elevator, shadow boxing, and then him getting out on a floor, and just an ESPN person standing behind him, just holding their coffee. They're giving him the push, dude. I'm really happy for him, man. 'Cause he's so fucking entertaining. And look, like I said, I think nightmare scenario. This is a nightmare scenario for either one, promotionally speaking. In terms of the UFC, but hey, man, it'd be interesting to see, both these guys fight, Pantoja for either the fourth or the third time. So, we'll see. I will say I'm personally more excited for the co-main event, cause I feel we really didn't get to see enough of Yair Rodriguez versus Brian Ortega. These two fought, obviously, July 2022, a couple minutes in, 4-11 of the first round. Brian suffers a shoulder injury, has not fought since. And they're going to come back fighting the co-main event for this one, man. Who do you got?
I got Yair Rodriguez in this one. I felt in the first fight, Yair was going to win anyways. I thought Yair's obviously over time improved his ground game on the feet. Obviously creative and a menace. I think he could, just like Brian Ortega's creative on the ground, I think the equivalent is for Yair on the feet. And he's one of the most exciting strikers, dude. In the whole promotion. And on top of that, Brian's been remembered from action. Yair hasn't, didn't compete that long ago. Obviously, he did have the loss to Volk, but he also did have that, amazing victory over Josh Emmett.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree with you. I'm gonna go and take Yair too, man. In the brief time that we got to see him fight Brian, it looked like Yair was a step ahead. So yeah, I'm gonna go and take him to get the win. And Yair, he lost to Volk, but he didn't look too bad until the finish. He looked so good against Josh Emmett, beat the piss out of him. So I'm gonna go and take Yair to get the win. In regards to the rest of this UFC Mexico City card, man, which fights are you most excited about?
There's so many. There's so many, man. There's so many guys on here that are so talented. So many young people. So many new faces have come in recent time. But we got to talk about these two. I'm going to mention two young fighters, but we're going to start with this one. Josh, the youngest fighter in UFC history, or youngest fighter gets signed to UFC, Raul versus Jr., man, back again on a main card. Not a pay-per-view this time, down in Mexico against Ricky Turcios. I'd say it's a hard fight still, man. His last fight, he got a good finish after suffering a pretty, but it was a tough loss, but it went the distance. He had trouble. He gassed. He recognized there were some mistakes in that. Like with him, man, every fight is just going to be, we're going to have that curiosity, what's going to be the next improvement? Is he going to be able to live up to the pressure in these high level fights and show up to the moment, because he's still 19 years old, man. He doesn't turn 20 until later this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. It's just so fucking surreal to think about the fact that Raul Rosas Jr. got signed at 17. Like, I understand you could definitely argue that it was too soon, and probably was too soon. If it was just based off of the one time he did get tested, and I think that was such a great thing, honestly, that he did lose. Like, I don't know how you feel about this, but man, before he lost to Christian Rodriguez last April, he was talking a lot, and not really, I don't have a problem with the talking, but it was him going back with Aljo saying, like, oh yeah, I beat his ass and sparring and stuff like that. And I was like, man, just kids talking a lot, man. Like, so, I'm happy that, he kind of took a step back, and afterwards he kind of like, I don't want to say he like realized that he needed to like chill out, but it seems like that's kind of what he did, man. I haven't heard as much. He's been more quiet. And I like that sort of thing, man. 19 years old, facing Ricky Turcios, who, he's had some up and downs in his own right, pretty Ricky, from tough, man. Like, he's had his own up and downs. So I'm very excited to see this fight. That's a great matchup for both of those guys, man. Even beyond the fact Raul is obviously 19, super young dude, but Ricky's not, he's still young in his UFC run too. He's still relatively unproven. So I think he's in his late 20s himself. So should be interesting, man. Very excited for that fight. And like you mentioned, there's a lot of young guys on this card, like even beyond Raul. This is a mostly prospect card, I would say. Like mostly prospects. Which I'm cool with, man, because the top fights are so good. You know what I mean? So, in terms of the rest of the card, man, I'm very excited for the return of Yasmin Yargüe. 10-1 coming off a loss to Denise Gomez in July. That was the first loss of her career, but another person, only 24 years old, very young, going to face Sam Hughes. Excited for that one. In terms of some other fights, which ones do you want to go and preview before we go and move on?
Daniel Zellhuber, man, we saw him here last time out in Kansas City when he faced, we personally saw him when he fought Atlanta Venata, but he did fight Chris Chicago since then, later last year, getting up an Anaconda finish. He did have some trouble in that fight, but ended up getting it done. And he's also facing another young guy in Francisco Prado, Argentinian guy that I was very interested in when he got signed, because he's 21. I think he was like 20 when he got signed, coming out of the goat shed. A guy that I have a lot of interest in as well. These are just two young dogs that are going to be going at it on the main card and a big event at that. First time back in Mexico, so the crowd's going to be crazy. He's going to get rowdy. And they pretty much got a Mexican across from the opposition in every fight. If not, they at least got some Latinam representation on the card.
Mm. Yep. Yeah, man. So, and one guy I want to go ahead and highlight, man. I am fucking psyched for the return of Felipe dos Santos, man. Of all the guys on this card, I might be most excited to see him, man. 23 years young, obviously we saw him fight Manel Cape last September, UFC 293, and he gave him hell for 15 minutes. Like, I understand he didn't get the win, and, but he showed a fucking crazy chin, insane pressure, and it's coming in short notice too. Like, big fan of Felipe Dos Santos. Excited to see him back against Victor Altamirano. Other guys coming back, Claudio Puelles, who for a minute there just couldn't stop hitting knee bars. Kind of got fraud checked a bit by Dan Hooker, I thought, in November of 2022 when Dan just kind of beat him up, man, when he couldn't get down to the mat. So that was a tough loss for him. He's been out of action since then, though. Over a year and a half later, he's coming back to face Fares Zaim, another young guy, 26 years young, win 2 in a row, last beat Jai Herbert last July. Should be a fun fight, man. Overall, what would you give this UFC Mexico card out on a scale of 1 to 10, Angel?
8.5, man. It's damn near pushing a 9 for me. I just know what all these guys are capable of, and gals. I mean, they're all capable of finishing the fight. I tell you, I don't know if I said it on air or on off air, but I see potentially more than half these fights being a finish.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, dude. And the fact they have all these young guys, man, and also just like, that Mexican crowd's gonna be fucking rocking, dude. Like, on Saturday night, man, like, in the building, like, you and I have talked about this a bit, like, off air. Like, there are just certain things that you and I will, like, want to be in attendance. It's, like, on the bucket list, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is one of those nights that, like, man, I would love to just be on press row for this shit, you know what I mean? I mean, their first time back in the UFC since 2019. And that was that crazy card, first time back in Mexico City since 2019, where they had that crazy card where Yair and Jeremy C was in the eye poke and they just went fucking crazy, it should be a fun night, man. It should be a fun night. But it's kind of funny because the aura in the Mexican crowd is going to be crazy. PFL versus Bellator is going down this Saturday night, and they're going to be taking place in Saudi Arabia, which has the aura of a fucking DMV, when it comes to the fights. So, but I will say I am.
It can still be hype. It can still be hype. You never know.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Maybe they can surprise me for this time after seeing all the boxing events. Maybe they'll have a different crowd. Maybe they'll have a different crowd. Maybe the boxing crowds have just sucked. But regardless, man, like I said, PFL versus Bellator going down this Saturday. I want to say evening. I think the card's gonna be starting at like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. From Riyadh. Look, man, you and I have talked about this card a fair bit. It's an excellent one. Going down on pay-per-view. Is it worth pay-per-view? Debatable for a lot of people. I'm very interested to see how the numbers do and how the hype goes for this card. It's only Wednesday, but I haven't seen a lot of buzz about it. Regardless, though.
Wait, you said the card's on a Wednesday?
No, I'm saying like it's only Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
But I haven't seen a lot of buzz for it as of now. So we'll see how it goes throughout the week. But in terms of the card, man, hitting off of the main event, Renan Pereira taking on Ryan Bader. Problema, 6'8", 260, just a fucking monster. Has not lost in 2 years. Currently riding a 4-fight unbeaten streak. Last defeated Denis Koltov in November by knockout. Actually won the 2023 PFL series, a tournament, with all knockouts, man. 3 straight. Taking on Ryan Bader, who, Darth Bader, we know the story. Unbeaten at heavyweight, period. Well, he's had some losses sandwiched in. Corey Anderson, Vadim Nemkov. Up at heavyweight, he's still unbeaten, and the resume is excellent. Fedor Emelianenko twice, King Mo, Matt Mitrione, Czech Congo, Valentin Moldavsky. Just some dogs on the resume, man. What do you make of this fight? I'm actually legitimately very excited for this one.
I think it's a good fight for Bader. At least to, get his feet wet into the PFL and kind of this new promotion now that they're going to be PFL X Bellator or PFL Bellator, whatever the fuck they are. I'm excited. I mean, Renan Pereira is a tough guy, has power, has capabilities on the ground. It's certainly not an easy fight for Bader. I mean, I don't think either one of these guys is going to get ran over.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. I think just to kind of give a quick prediction. I don't think we can give predictions for as many fights as you want. But I will say we should probably give a prediction for this one. I'm going to go and take Ryan Bader, man. I think the few times I've seen Renan Pereira on the mat, he's great on the mat, but he just seemed like whenever he's put on the bottom and he faces an actual wrestler, he seems to struggle a bit. And I also just think Ryan Bader, man, like the guy has looked so good at heavyweight. I mean, I don't even know why he fucked around back in, like, I think 2020 and went back down to light heavyweight. I didn't particularly understand the decision. He just drained himself and struggled a lot, man. Even against, like, Lyoto Machida, he wasn't himself, you know? So, yeah, I'm gonna go and take Bader to get the win, man. What do you think?
No, I'm in the same boat.
No. Fair enough, man. Co-main events. Another excellent fight. Impa Kasinge taking on Johnny Eblen. Impa Kasinge was one of those guys that got cut from the UFC that I didn't necessarily agree with. He was 2-2, lost to Carlson Harris, lost to Joaquin Buckley. No shame in that. But since then, man, rebounded. Just 6 wins in a row. 5 of those wins came inside the PFL, won the light heavyweight tournament with some excellent performances. Now he's back at middleweight taking on Johnny Eblen. The human cheat code might be the greatest fighter outside of the UFC today. Won the middleweight title from Gegard Mousasi with an excellent performance back in June of 2022. Won 2 straight since then, including knocking out Fabian Edwards in Ireland in a spectacular performance last fall. What do you make of this fight, man? It should be an excellent one.
I mean, look, I think I'm not particularly excited about this just because Impa, you know, he won the tournament at 205, not 185. Mm-hmm. So he's going to be making his return to 185 now, post-UFC career. So I'm curious to see if he's able to replicate some of the stuff he's done after and what he's done at 205 now at 185 now against Johnny Eblen. But, I mean, a lot of people say Johnny Eblen might be the best 185er on the planet, so he's got his work cut out for him.
Yeah, I agree with you. For that reason, I am going to go ahead and take Johnny Eblen to get the win. Impa, man, I like the guy a lot. I'm sure he'll have some moments on the feet in this one, but he is clearly outgunned heading into this matchup. That being said, I am excited for it. Now, I know you're in agreement with taking Johnny Eblen. I don't even need to ask that one. Nonetheless, man, next up on the main card, this is a short notice fight, actually. Patricio Pitbull. For a long time, you know, we talked about great guys outside the UFC. For a long time, he was at the top of that conversation. Coming in here in kind of a must-win situation, though. He's lost 2 in a row. Granted, neither one was at featherweight, but still. Got knocked out by Shishimaru Suzuki when he stepped in on short notice at Super Ryzen 2 last July. Prior to that, he lost to Sergio Pettis. Got dominated in a fight down at bantamweight. So he's back here taking on short notice replacement Gabriel Braga. Gabriel Braga stepping in for Jesus Pinedo. Gabriel Braga 12-1 in his career, man. Only loss was the aforementioned Jesus Pinedo last year, where he came up short for the $1 million. He was supposed to face Aaron Pico on this card, but so he's not coming in here out of shape. But still, it's a big style difference, I would say. What do you make of this featherweight fight?
I mean, looking to be tough. I mean, Pitbull hasn't seen victory here now in over a year, or coming in on a year now since the Pettis loss. He's 36 now. He seems to be the shorter guy in there, which, I mean, pretty much all his career it's always been like that. But he's taking on a young, 25-year-old, hungry guy. I will say I was significantly more interested in Pinedo, because Pinedo as a matchup, but I still think that Gabriel Alves Braga could present a lot of trouble. And I'm curious to see how much Pitbull still has left in the tank, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's honestly what it comes down to for me. I think if he's even it's really hard to tell where Pitbull's at in his career because of the fact that he hasn't fought up at featherweight. You know, he had the lightweight fight and he also had the bantamweight fight. So we haven't really seen his style, but not style, but like kind of where he is at this point in his career. I think if he's a fraction of what he used to be, he'll win here. And in fact, I am going to pick him to get the win. But Gabriel Braga could absolutely catch him. Who are you picking in this one?
I'm gonna go Pitbull. I think he'll be able to get it done.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough, man. Should be an interesting fight. And this is actually the last fight on the card involving a current champion. So we have Jason the Ass-Kicking Machine Jackson, the greatest nickname in mixed martial arts, coming in here on a 7-fight win streak. Took him forever. He had to grind for 4 years to get the title shot. Finally got it against Yaroslav Amosov, and he made the fucking most of it. Knocked him out in Chicago last year. He was originally supposed to fight Magomed Karimov in this bout. And instead, he's been facing Ray Cooper III, who, if you're going to get a replacement, this is about as good as it gets, man. I mean, Ray Cooper coming off a loss of the middleweight to Derek Brunson. But even then, we know the story here. Knocked out Magomedov himself back in October of 2021. A former 2-time welterweight tournament winner. This one's going to be going down to 182 catch weight. What do you make of this one?
It's definitely going to be exciting. I mean, Ray Cooper brings an exciting style. Obviously, Jason Jackson as well. These guys are going to give us a war. My big thing is it's just that Ray Cooper up a weight class. I just don't think he's the same fighter or his, just him fighting up a weight class just hasn't seemed to work. So I think that's where the trouble's going to come in. I think Jason Jackson should have this in the bag.
Mm-hmm. Same here, man. Same here. Gonna go ahead and take Jason Jackson for the win, man. But stylistically, man, this might be one of the better fights on the card. It just depends on,
it's up there.
Yeah, 100%. Now, granted, there's a fight we're gonna talk about in a minute that is significantly better, but we'll hit it. In terms of the rest of the card, there's some other banger matchups. We got Bruno Capoloza taking on Vadim Nemkov, who vacated the light heavyweight title to move up to heavyweight for this one. And that's going to be where he's going to be campaigning moving forward. Thiago Santos, Yoel Romero, the battle of the old fucks. We got Thiago.
Two 40-year-olds, man.
Yeah, Thiago, 40 years old, taking on Yoel, who is 46. And it's interesting because they're both, while they have that age, they're very similar in terms of fight style too. Like, they can do explosive, they'll be very explosive whenever they do throw, but they're both super inactive too. So it's it's kind of weird, man. That one should be a fun one. I mentioned a minute ago that there's a clear fight of the night for this event. It's going to end up being Clay Collard versus AJ McKee. We can just hand it out now. What do you make of that fight, man? That one is going to be so fucking good.
I'm just curious to see how it's on the feet, man. I'm curious to see what kind of trouble Clay gives AJ, and what kind of trouble AJ could create for Clay, and if the fight ends up going to the ground, or if it's be just a primarily stand-up matchup.
Mm-hmm. 100%, man. 100%. It's going to be interesting to see how they do on the feet. Because AJ McKee, he's no slouch, but, yeah, man, I mean, few are better than Clay Collard, man. And,
Clay Collard, a dog, bro.
He's a dog, man. He's gotten so close on 2 or 3 occasions now to winning it all in one of these lightweight tournaments, but he came up short to Roush Monfillo, came up short against Olivier Aubameyang. So it sucks to see, man, but dude, if there's a guy who came to the PFL and just put on fight after fight, just banger after banger, it's him, man. Nobody's done it better. So very excited to see it, man. In terms of the undercard, and we got Aaron Pico, Henry Corrales, the debut of Biagio Ali Walsh, who was just knocked out.
Debut, because he's fought amateur on these PFL cards.
Excuse me, you're right. Pro debut. He's knocked out some cans as an amateur. Just bludgeoned a few dudes. So that should be fun. And then Clarissa Shields is back. The GWOAT from boxing. We know the story there. Beating a lot of dogs, man. She's an all-time great, at least in terms of women's boxing. But as an MMA fighter, she was 1-1. Back taking on Kelsey DeSantis, who I believe has a 1-2 record. So.
This was a bit random one for Clarissa, right? Because we kind of didn't know it was going to happen. It just kind of got announced, and here we are.
Yep. Yeah, 100%, dude. Kind of a weird one, but it makes sense. I mean, they couldn't get. For whatever reason, they didn't book Chris Cyborg on this one. They couldn't book Ngannou, obviously. They couldn't book a lot of these other bigger draws that they do have on their roster. So it's you can't do, this guy, can't do Jake Paul, you can't do this. You might as well add somebody like Clarissa Shields, right? So it makes sense from that point of view. But still, they kind of come out of nowhere, so we'll see, man. We'll see. Yeah, man, and that's kind of all I got for this one. Any closing thoughts? What would you give this out of 10, Angel?
I think it's a solid 7. 7 could be pushing an 8. I mean, it's a stacked card, man, for PFL and Bellator. It's pretty stacked. I mean, if we're rating it on that scale, I'd say it's probably a 10. Let's be honest. Mm-hmm. I mean, these are the best guys you can get across both promotions, literally fighting each other. When we have champ versus champ matchups, I mean, it'd be a 10. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the way I feel too. I mean, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. I'm gonna go IGN score 7.2 out of 10. It's a good card, man. It's a good card. Pay-per-view worthy. We'll see how it does. That's the way I feel like. I think if we're just going on the fights themselves, yeah, probably. How well do I think they'll do? No idea. So. We'll just have to wait and see, man. But just kind of move on, man. We got some news to go ahead and close out the pod. And we got a fair bit of it. And the number one thing coming out of this week, the number, or coming out of last week, I guess I should say, the thing that everybody wanted to know is, what is UFC 300? What is the main event? What's it going to be? Well, we now have some clarity. The UFC 300 main event will be Alex Pereira taking on the former champion Jamahal Hill. We knew that Pereira was in the running for this for a long time. We thought maybe he was going to move up and face Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall revealed that, Pereira he wasn't interested in moving up to heavyweight at the moment, so that was not going to happen. In the end, he's going to defend the gold against the man who never lost a belt. So, Angel, what do you make of it, man? Are you cool with his announcement? What do you think?
I don't got the biggest issue with it, but it is definitely a little disappointing, right? I was dead set that these two weren't going to fight because I thought they were going to headline UFC 301, which was going to be in Brazil, which made a lot of sense. I'm assuming that was probably the UFC's original plan, but then they realized, fuck, we got no main event right now for 300. Let's do this. And Pereira is a star, man. He does have attention. He has fans. I actually, it's not a bad choice. Was it UFC 300? Debatable, right?
Yeah.
But I'm still going to watch it. I'm still down for it. I will say the fact that they didn't make a big promo for all of this, and granted the fight just got made not that long ago, is so disappointing, just because you can't tell me they could have been at UFC 298, and then all of a sudden, right before the main event, they have like a little announcement. Boom, yeah. It goes dark. A video starts playing on the screen, and all you hear is like drumming music, like some tribal music. Oh. And it's like do, and then you see a back turn behind you. You see someone's back. It looks like Alex Pereira's. And it's Alex Pereira. He turns around with the headpiece, the headdress. And then you see him pull back an arrow. And you see him pull out the arrow, and he screams. And then you see it flying into the woods, and it's snowy. And it hits the tree, and there's another figure there. They turn around. They're in a jacket. It's Jamahal Hill, UFC 300 main event. You could have told me that could have been, the fact that they didn't do anything like that is just disappointing to me, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the problem.
By the way, don't you love that beautiful image I just came up with?
Well, I agree. That's actually so much better than what I was going to say. Like, I was going to say that, like, they could have announced it in a cool way. Like, my suggestion was going to be showing, like, they could have made a package showing Jamahal Hill beating the shit out of Glover Teixeira, and then they could have had that moment from in the corner where whenever, like, Jamal and
we could have
Alex,
had that. We could have had that all in the promo, too.
Yeah, because they were both sizing each other up, because both those dudes knew that, like, hey, there's a very good possibility down the line you and I are going to be fighting.
Look, I think the build-up will be good. These guys got beef. I think now that we're talking about it and being a little hard thinking about it, so I think there is potential here, man. There's still something here. We should not be disappointed, because 300 is fucking stacked, and you can't deny it.
Yeah, I actually, so here's the thing, right? You mentioned, like, 301. So according to what I've read, multiple reports, this fight was the fight for 301. That was 100% set in stone.
That's why I never thought about it.
Yeah, but because of the fact that they didn't have anybody else, they didn't want to do Leon versus Bilal, and they couldn't get anybody else to fight Leon. They tried to make, Aspinall against a couple other guys that didn't end up happening. They offered John it, they offered Stipe it, they offered Tom it, we can go run down the fucking list, right? But, and at the same time, like, look, they are robbing Peter to pay Paul. I mean, they are taking away an excellent main event from Brazil. And now they're going to have to figure out what they want to do for Brazil. Although I think they have an easy fix there, especially if, not to kind of jump forward a little bit. But also we have UFC 299 going down next month. Let's just say, and granted it'd be a fast turnaround, but like, shit, dude. I mean, if Jailton Almeida wins against Curtis Blades, you run Almeida versus Aspinall in Brazil. Like, that'd be interesting. But,
they're probably going to do Pantoja versus Moreno / Royval.
Yeah, and then, we'll have to wait and see. But they are kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul. But look, I don't have that big of an issue with this. I mean, I understand a lot of people do, but like, guys, you got to think about this logistically. Poatan might be the biggest UFC star right now.
Him and Ilia, right? They got the most pull right now, at least, right? Like, they got attention behind him.
I don't even think Ilia, dude. I think it's straight up just Poatan. Like, I think he's the number one guy. Like, obviously, obviously, if Conor came back and started fighting, like, he'd be number one. But, like, in terms of active guys, like, if you're not talking to guys who fight once every 5 years, like Nate Diaz or Conor or whatever, then, yeah, like, it's absolutely Poatan in terms of active fighters.
Yeah.
So, and that's just based off of, like, the fact that, like, he's everywhere right now, man. You see the way fans react to him whenever he steps in the building, man. Like, he's such a big fucking star. So, I think that, yeah, I get why people are mad. I understand it. And I fully agree. I think Dana and them, they really fucked it up. I mean, for those of you guys that weren't around for, like, UFC 200. Like, I wasn't around for UFC 100, I'll admit it. I was around for 200, though. And I was around for the build of that. And they were promoting and looking at fights for UFC 200, like, a year out. Like, they were working on shit. Like, they announced Conor Diaz, I think, like a month, like March, and then the card wasn't for like 4 months. Like, they had already figured out the main event, and then obviously Conor fell out of that fight, so then they got Jones DC like instantly. They were much more on top of things. Right now it feels like the UFC, they're kind of like, they're playing Tetris. They're just trying to figure out where the pieces go, you know, and like sometimes it falls into place perfectly, and then other times you're sitting around waiting until a month and a half before the event's supposed to go down. On paper, supposed to be one of your biggest events of all time. You don't know what the fuck to do. So they kind of lucked out in the fact that they got Pereira and Jamahal was like, hey man, like, this is what they offered, and they offered me a bag to go ahead and take it. I'm still healing, but you know, it's going to be alright. I'm getting paid a lot of money to do this. So, I don't have that big of an issue with it. And on paper, like, dude, it's a banger. Like, I understand some people are like, oh, the star power's not there. If you guys care about fights, like just straight up fights, Jamahal Hill Aspeya is the fight to make it light heavyweight. So I don't have that big of an issue with it. So very excited for it, man. Very excited for it. And that card is excellent. Like, if we're moving past the main event, I don't understand people that are fucking complaining about UFC 300. Like, if you want to complain about the main event, sure. Is it not UFC 300 main event worthy? Probably not. But that card itself is excellent, dude. So, anyways, man. Just gotta move on. Speaking of Brazilians, man, at UFC 298, it was announced that the axe murderer, Vanderlei Silva, will be heading into the UFC Hall of Fame. He will be inducted this, I believe, June at International Fight Week. Look, man, he's the latest inductee into the Hall of Fame. One of the most terrifying men to ever step into the cage or ring. What do you make about Vandy getting the Hall of Fame nod?
I mean, good. I mean, he deserves it. Data, obviously, backtracking on some statements, getting called out for it too at the presser, and obviously you know how Data gets defensive. He was defensive as always.
Yeah. 100%, man. Yeah, I mean, I'm very happy for Vandy. Just to kind of, I don't think there's a whole lot to really say here. Very deserving. In terms of just, like, I think Vanderlei Silva, of like, if you're going to, like, make a list of the most terrifying MMA fighters ever, he's number one. For me personally, I understand there's a lot of you guys can put in the conversation, but Pride Vanderlei was just different. And I read his book. If you guys want to read his book, it's great. You can get it translated from Portuguese. It's a great book. And he talks about some of like the sparring sessions back at Shoot a Box in the day. Like, he was having fucking wars and then going in and just, and it's like, dude, no wonder he was ready, man. No wonder he came out like a bat out of hell, man. He's been fighting the entire time, you know, like, just a dog, man. So I'm so happy for Vandy. Nobody deserves it more, man. I am a little bit surprised given that he had beef with the UFC for a long time. He went to Bellator. He's a Pride guy. I'm honestly a little bit surprised that they did actually give him the nod. And whenever he's in the UFC, he was kind of past his prime anyway. So, I mean, he didn't have the run that a lot of people expected. But, dude, he deserves it. So I'm happy for him. Yeah, I mean, kind of next up, these are kind of two quick ones to kind of wrap up with. Both of them are interesting subjects I saw throughout the week. Fyodor Emelianenko, one of the greatest fighters of all time, he said that he wants a boxing match. He called out Mike Tyson, and there were actually rumors that those two were going to fight in Saudi Arabia. Apparently, it turned out to be not true. Well, with Mike Tyson out of the picture, he said he's down to box young guys. And actually, Angel, 45-year-old Fedor Emelianenko, he wants to box Francis Ngannou. He called him out this week. What do you make about that? Do you want to see Fedor Emelianenko against Francis Ngannou?
Let's go, champ! Let's go! No, that's not good.
Yeah, you want to see poor fucking Fedor die in the cage. or not the cage, in the ring, but, you know. It's just brutal, dude. I mean, I don't want to see this, dude. I mean, I love Fedor. I'm down to see Fedor box some of the older dudes. I'm down to see him fight, you know, and old Mike Tyson if he wants. You know, I'm even down to see him box, you know, Vandy. Vandy said he's down to do some boxing matches. You know, Rampage wants to box. You know, they can have an elders league for some of these guys, I think. But I don't think fucking Ngannou's the guy. So,
The balls
yeah,
on him, man.
yeah. Well, Fedor said, like, you know, they were asking me in the interview. He's like, are you sure? You know, he's like a young guy. Like, you're kind of. He's like, it's not like I'm fearless or anything, but, you know, like, I'm a seasoned fighter. I know what I'm getting into, you know? I'm like, okay. All right, Fedor.
What a Chad.
I know. Absolute Chad. Anyways, man, last minute. Speaking of boxing, you know what we should do? Fedor Emelianenko wants to box. You know who also wants to box? Butterbean. I saw a video last week of Eric Butterbean Esch. Apparently, the man lost 200 pounds thanks to the help of, you know, WCW legend Diamond Dallas Page, DDP Yoga. He lost 200 pounds, got a hip replacement, and he's hitting the pads. He said he wants one more fight. If you had to choose one exhibition opponent for Butterbean, who do you want to see him fight?
Bob Sapp.
Holy shit. Battle of the bodies, right?
You're right.
You know, I'm actually kind of down with that. That's a fight that it feels like it should have happened in Pride before. You know what I mean?
I know, right?
That's a great shout.
Granted though, Josh, I didn't see it. I feel like I saw like footage of Butterbean walking with like a walker and shit. I do not think it's a good idea.
How recent was this?
I think it was around the time we released all this footage, like what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, I saw he had a whole mini documentary come out. And
I don't know if he had like surgery or like weight loss surgery or something like that, but I saw that video and I was like, oof, I don't know if that's a good idea now that you said that.
Yeah, he lost like 200 pounds, and then I think he got a hip replacement, so he's good now.
By the way, Butterbean is pushing almost 60, by the way.
Exactly. But at this point, I mean, look, dude, we had fucking old-ass James Toney and Donovan Ruddock fight. I mean, at this point, anybody can get in there, you know?
Jesus.
Yeah, man, I don't got anything else. You got anything else you want to talk about before we go and bounce out of here, man?
No, I mean, I was just excited to come back next week, recap this amazing card in Mexico. And Josh, right after that, we're back on the fucking pay-per-view.
I know.
Can you believe that?
No.
It doesn't even seem real.
We're back, dude. MMA's back.
Next week, we have a pay-per-view, Josh. Like, what the fuck?
I know, dude. I know.
What the actual fuck? Mom?
We had a rough start to the year, which is pretty normal, I'd say, at this point in time. Last year was very much the same, but man, going into the spring, we're heating the fuck up, man. Let's go. Let's go, champ.
We got that. So, I know, but we're gonna get that heat check though. That's the only thing that sucks. We get that heat check.
Yeah. Anyways, man, that's all I got. That's all I got though. I am at Josh Evanoff on Twitter. He's at Angel Ortega _01 at Courtside Sound for all things relating to the pod. Hope you guys enjoyed. Peace and butt grease. Mouse click.